Good morning, everyone, and glad to see that most of you have joined us already. Today's topic is interactive marketing, and we have amazing guest speaker and expert of interactive marketing, Jill Leners from Qualifio here, our partner. Thank you for joining us, Jills.
Yes,
I hope I'm
thank
pronouncing
you.
your name correctly. It's always the
It,
same trouble with me.
I would say it's always the same
Yes.
trouble with me. I've heard different pronunciation all over Europe. So it's Gilles. It's a French
Jill.
name. Yeah, in Belgium we speak both Dutch and French, and that's actually where I'm from.
Yeah. So welcome, Jill, and thank you for joining us. Before we
Thank
start,
you.
I will quickly go through some things. Please feel free to ask questions and join the discussion and conversation. There's the hand icon in your control panel. So if you just tap that, I will be able to open your microphones so you can actually join our discussion. If you don't want to open your mic, you can also write down questions under the questions section. I will not read out your names, so you can ask even the silliest questions, but I'm sure there are no silly questions there. So please ask questions and so we can get the most out of this. Yes, go ahead, Gilles. I will now give you the screen so you can start. There you go.
Perfect. Thank you. So normally you should all be able to see my screen. I'm going to go
Yes,
to
we see
full
it.
screen. All right.
Yes, perfect.
So,
Go ahead.
thank you. So the goal for today is what we're about to discuss is how that different European brands have been boosting their KPIs or their, let's say, their marketing KPIs and increase the return on those KPIs using interactive marketing, and that's where we try to call ourselves experts in also at Qualifio is interactive marketing. In very short, what is it? As opposed to static marketing, where you push a message which can be an advertising banner or TV commercial or radio commercial, where the viewer or the listener just consumes the content and then goes with it. There is really an interaction with your audience where you also can track on a couple of let's say new KPIs and also get to know your customer better and then know how they are feeling, what their interests are, and everything. So as you already see, without showing a lot of examples, it's really difficult to explain. So that's why we decided to show you 11 success stories of some different European brands. So as I mentioned at the start, maybe very short, who am I? I'm Gilles. I work at a Belgian company called Qualifio. What can I tell about Belgium? We've actually been, again, more than 400 days without a government over here, but hooray, today we have one. Basically, next to, because my role within Qualifio has been to grow our activities also in Scandinavia. So next to our 11 European examples, I've tried also to show a couple of examples of how this is already happening in Finland with different brands. So we have been working in the past or until now mainly with media in Finland, like a Sanoma Media, like an Alma Media, Kaleva Media, Otava. So you might already have seen a Qualifio interactive marketing campaign without really knowing it, because you will never actually see our logos if a customer works with us. So the agenda for today, the introduction, I guess we already had most of that. We will go through 4 main metrics or main, let's say, things we would like to measure, being, of course, the website traffic, or maybe to talk in broader terms, the reach, if we're not only talking about the website. Second one is the engagement. Then of course, also lead generation. And then if we want to go that step further into personalization, we also, of course, want to start segmenting the audiences. And then at the end, I will try in a very short nutshell to explain what Qualifio is. And as we mentioned before, you see step 7 Q&A, but please don't let your questions until the end. If you see something relevant or you have some questions about an example, push the hand button or write your question in the chat, and then we'll take it from there. All right, let's go. So in short, why are KPIs important? Maybe a small reminder. Of course, you want to know how you are doing. You want to have a reference point to see if the company is healthy, if you're going in the right direction, and from time to time, it's valuable then to check these KPIs to see if you need to make some adjustments in the current approach you are taking, which is of course all kind of logical, so we won't take too much time here. And we're gonna jump to our first KPI. And this is still, this is very similar to what you already have in the static marketing, and it's always the first step is the reach. It's when we are, it's the most important KPI if we're looking at the top of our funnel, where we sometimes hear the other terms like above the line or branding. And we are often looking at the impressions as a basic measure. So how many people see my message? This can be the pure impressions that you have on a social media. But of course, the goal is always when you're on social media, you get your traffic, and of course directly afterwards you lose it. So the goal is also often to drive people to your own channels, your own website, maybe your mobile app, and also to get a hang of how people are consuming the content on that website. So that can be the number of sessions per person. This can be the duration. How long are people staying on my website? The page views you are generating, but also the bounce rate. How many people that click on a specific call to action and fall on a landing page? How many people drop out? Maybe the message wasn't clear. So these are all valuable message to start looking at, or valuable metrics to start looking at. And in the end, the objective is to go and measure how many people really see my brand. So next step is, how does interactive marketing come in here to increase website traffic? And we have two nice stories from Eurosport and Guli. The reason why they are basically using interactive marketing to increase that website traffic or the reach is basically that once you incite people to participate to what they're seeing, they see that also the attention rate is growing by almost 81%. And that's also very much linked to the wording, as you're really asking people, hey, I want you to do something. And actually, it's proven that this also works in grabbing more attention from the people that are surfing online, which, as we know, is getting more and more difficult by the day. Actually, it's already 2 years ago, unfortunately, but as a part of the FIFA World Cup in 2018, Eurosport thought, okay, we are always showing our matches, but how can people sitting at home watching the games also take part in what is happening? And they decided for every one of the matches, they would allow people to choose their own favorite lineup. So if you're, for example, not a fan of Cristiano Ronaldo, there was no problem. You were able to choose who was going to go on the pitch. And of course, they made it shareable. People were able then to share their lineups to the rest of the world on their social media, in their private WhatsApp channels, which also increased the reach. So that's already an important factor in increasing that reach. And where interactive content is an interesting one, is that it's easily shareable. And it's also fun to do. People are incited by different means or different psychological ways. One aspect is just that it's fun, that it can look good, but also fear of missing out, for example, on not knowing something or being part of a community. So to show you a couple of results. So in terms of participations, and this was a campaign done across the globe. that started in the UK, to put it in a bit of context. But there were more than 500,000 participations, which generated around 1.8 million page views. So what do we mean by that? Is that this campaign had, let's say, 3 screens. One screen where people needed to choose their team, the second screen where they leave their details, and the last screen where, of course, they see their final lineup and can share it with their the rest of their friends and network. And this is an interesting one because there we can already start looking a bit at the engagement and how much time are people spending with the brand, which is getting more important if we also want to make sure that people not only see the message, but also remember the message. And what's interesting here, as I said already, is that, for example, the number of Facebook shares were enormously, which is actually generating for you in terms of exposure, a much, let's say, higher exposure, and makes your brand much more visible. How could this look in Finland? Well, a couple of months or maybe even years ago, we had a nice quiz in sports on Iltalehti. So Iltalehti, part of Alma Media, uses Qualifio on the journalistic end, on the marketing end, even to collect data, but also for advertisers. And in this case, the goal of Turen Palosura, if I pronounce it right, sorry already for that, but I already had my name pronounced wrongly, so I'll take that one. So there were there were more than 9,500 participations. But what's interesting here is we look at the page views, that it's almost the tenfold of the participations. So what's interesting is that here we see they needed to answer a couple of questions based on a timer, and that there were more than 10 questions. This means that the people that were taking part, that were reading the article on Iltalehti and then participating to the campaign, were spending much longer time with the TPS brand in their mind. And what's interesting also is that of the people that started at this campaign, 80% also went through until the end. Another one, it was actually happening in Russia, but it's also involving one of the Finnish teams, is a prediction contest, for example, where people were asked to basically predict the end score of the game against Avangard Omsk and Jokerit. And again, the goal here is not to go and drive people to specific pages. It's just more with the goal to drive the engagement, to incite people to take part and be aware of the upcoming match against Avangard and Jokerit. Another one is from OP, where they were asking people to, let's say, answer a couple of questions, and at the end, they got their personalized profile saying what their dream cottage would be, and of course, then could find some more information about the services at OP Coffee. Then the second, we're going back international, back not to the UK this time, but to France. So we're talking about Guli, which is let's say a children's TV channel, which have for the last couple of years, you see already since 2015, have started working with Qualifio to boost the amount of interactive content on their website, which can be quizzes, it can be games, competitions. And what's interesting is that in this growth in the last couple of years, it has actually now become more than 40% of the traffic on the website. So children coming on their website to engage, to play with the content that they find there. So a nice example here, which is on the editorial side, is a kind of jackpot that they did for the occasion with a partner, where people could win a prize and could play multiple times. So one time it can be a jackpot, the other time can be a puzzle or memory game, but the goal is always that it's fun to do and that people are just having fun with your brand in mind. And again, in terms of participations, context again, taking in mind that we're in France, a country with more than 40 million inhabitants, we had 231,000 participations. So how could it look in Finland again? This was an interesting one by Munox. I guess you guys know it better than I do, but the goal for them here in this campaign was basically to raise awareness. So especially in a day and age where a lot of people are thinking about their proteins, doing fitness and sports, they were challenging people to find out, okay, of all these foods that we mentioned on the left side, which of these foods contain the right or the right daily amount of proteins, of course, and also promoting one of their products. Where there was a button to answer again, so you see here that I still had the Google Translate extension turned on, because unfortunately my Finnish is not good enough for that yet. And then again, as I'm saying, there's no such thing as too much cheese. In this case, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to try and pronounce the name, but in this case, this, let's say, Finnish cheese producer wanted to put their different products at the forefront by allowing people to find out based on their preferences or based on the, let's say, the recipe that they were going to make, which cheese would be the best fitting for that. So again, here the goal was mainly focused on, okay, how many people see our brand, how many people know our brand and have it top of mind. Another one, and this was not specifically for one brand, but this was on Cax Plus, so one of the let's say the Ottawa media magazines, where people were allowed to vote on the campaign. And what's interesting here, and just the reason that I'm showing this is mainly because the engagement, which we will talk about later also, is also highly dependent on the type of content. So what's interesting is that this is a campaign that was published inside an article. We have more than 2,000 participations, which is nice. It's pretty standard, but it's nice. And there was no specific promotion to this, as it was an editorial campaign. But what's interesting is that we have a 50% completion rate. So of all the people that opened the article, and maybe they have not, some might not even have seen it even in the article, because it was basically the campaign was added at the bottom of an editorial article. Even though 50% completed the whole test, voting for their favorite tracksuit for children. So again, it also really depends also on the type of content, and we will zoom in a bit more on that later, that if you're talking reach, it depends on how fun and how engaging your content is. But the other way around, if you're a B2B company with a complex product, it might be more interesting to aim for lower reach, but a much higher conversion rate, as of course your leads there are often much more valuable. Another fun one was here, also in Finland, from Suomalainen Kirjakauppa. Again, not sure about the pronunciation, but basically what they offered here was a kind of Tinder for books. So the goal was that you swipe left or right on the different books that they propose here. So which they could easily do on the phone or by swiping or by clicking the buttons to find the match, and of course to be able to propose some nice books to the people. As the first impression again is always important, and in this case also they offered a nice reward, and it also allowed them to showcase the different books that they have on display at that time. Another one from K City Market, which is more kind of which type of griller are you? Again, this was one published on Iltalehti, where we see a very nice participation rate. Again, in terms of page views, so we see that they always had to choose between two options, and there were more than 10 screens where they were choosing how they would grill their meat or their vegetables or fish. And we see that actually for a quite long campaign, that there was still a completion rate of almost 50%, which is again very much linked to the content. People that wanna know more about grilling or are passionate about grilling seem to go further than classically other people do, also resulting in a better conversion rate. And I mentioned it already a couple of times before, but once we're going interactive, it's important also to look at the engagement. And basically what we're talking about here is, of all the people that are seeing your message, how many people are acting on it? As I said before, the goal is not only that people see your message, but that they also remember it. And there are different, of course, for every metric, there are different KPIs. And it really depends on what the goal is and what the channel you are using. So on social media, this can be likes, share, comments. But if you're doing, for example, a poll or a vote on your website, there's a number of people playing. It can also be linked to the drop rate inside the campaign. And basically, as I mentioned already before, the engagement that you need to aim for really depends on a couple of factors, but in a basic sense, we can drill it down to the to, let's say, this formula below, saying that it results from the reward that people are getting from interacting with your brand, which can be maybe a prize or just the pure fun of taking part in a fun game, versus the effort they need to take to complete that. And maybe more on that later. So here we had a nice campaign on, again, difficult to pronounce, Tietan Kuvaletta, where people were incited to win a GoPro if they uploaded their pictures of a nice sunset and had a gallery in which people could vote. So here we're talking about much lower participation rates, but at the same time, here you know that 130 people were taking that picture, were taking the time to take their phone, think about, okay, what could be the best picture to make me win that GoPro, which is resulting in a much higher engagement and a much, let's say, higher chance that people are going to remember the fact that they actually want a GoPro. Again, here we're talking maybe about a less sexy product where we might have some lower engagement, but the goal is also not to reach all of the Finnish population, but only the people that are working with let's say, employee remuneration and then human resources. So the goal here was actually to allow people to take part in a quiz and find out how much their remuneration was motivating to the employees. So they would, for example, ask a couple of questions in terms of how much is it focused on the long term, how much is it focused on the short term. So again, in this case, Fenia is trying to sell, let's say, an insurance product, but in the campaign, they're not talking about the insurance, they're talking about the, let's say, the satisfaction of the employee, which is in the end goal of the human resources person, and which is going to be much, let's say, more likely to grab their attention. And then if we, so we have our reach, people are engaging with us. Now, then it also, of course, nobody's in the business of everybody's in the business for, let's say, for the money. So we need to drive sales. And how can we drive sales as a marketing team is, of course, to offer or by offering leads to the sales team. And of course, the first step is defining, okay, what is a lead for our brand? This can be a newsletter opt-in to be able to send some more content to people and nurture them further, or to increase, maybe for existing customers, to increase the amount of time that they are spending with the brand so they don't churn. This can be if you have, for example, an account, maybe if we're thinking about Netflix, how many people that create a new account, or if we're maybe talking more about FMCG brands, let's say a L'Oreal or a Nestle, this can be people asking for a sample or a test product to be able to test it out. So again, 2 stories international with some examples also in Finland. So last year we had a year-long a series of interactive campaigns for Bioderma, which they published across different channels. So they realized that people don't go like that on the Bioderma website. So they created a number of landing pages and social media channels where they distributed the campaign, where people were able to test or answer a couple of questions. Here it is in French, but no worries, we will find our Finnish example quite soon. And people could get a sample, but actually it's a skincare brand. So the sample of the skin cream, let's say, was really based on your skin type, whether you have a greasy, a normal, or a dry skin type, which resulted in the end into 5,000 new subscribers. Again, maybe to give a bit of context, we are here in Belgium, a country of around, let's say, 10 million people. Another one was for Guerlain, where they had the question more on again on cosmetics, and it was really based on the skin color. So again, the goal was not to give away as much samples as they could, but to give away the right samples to the right people, and also to be able afterwards to ask feedback about the samples that they had given. So again, the number of people that opted in to get communication later on was quite important, and was also quite a success, based on the fact that they make it, let's say, a fun game to play. So here we get a same example or a similar example from Clinique. Also, I think it's a L'Oreal brand on a Finnish media website, where people could become part of a test group. But in this case, instead of answering some questions, they needed again to upload a picture. So again, the effort is going to be slightly higher, but this is not always a problem, because in this case, they know that if people are taking that extra effort, they're also maybe the more valuable customers. And I think if you are in a, say, cosmetics line, the goal is to find not the people that are let's say the price cutters, but are the ones that become a fan of your product and start buying other products within your product line and become a loyal customer. And this was for them one way to find out how these, or who these potential loyal customers could be. Another one, and this is more from the media perspective, and maybe I went a bit fast, but here it's about RTL, a French, Belgian, and Luxembourgian, I don't know if that's a word, but a media from Luxembourg. Promo Pharma, a Spanish e-commerce website. Bonnier, which has magazines and of course other media businesses, but here we'll talk about the magazines businesses across all Scandinavia, including Finland. And then PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, the French football team. So in this case, we're still talking about generating leads, and the difficulty is always how can we find a nice balance between not hiding our newsletter or our subscription forms at the bottom of the website somewhere or in a specific page in the website, but also not spamming people with hundreds of pop-ups and forms popping up at every step on your website. And again, the interactive content part here proves to be an easy way to give a reason to people to participate or to take part in what can be a game or a quiz or a competition. And at that point, when you have their attention and when they, for example, already need to leave their details because they may be wanting to win a prize, it's much easier also to propose them to maybe, instead of filling in just a form, maybe to create an account or maybe to check in an opt-in box to receive more offers about more competitions or about more, let's say, interesting content for them. And of course, that resulting in a much higher form submission increase than which you would have on a normal website pop-up, for example. A nice one here at RTL was around the anniversary, the 25th anniversary of Disneyland in Paris, where they were doing a Star Wars quiz, and people could win a different let's say an access to a VIP party at Disneyland by answering a couple of funny questions, where basically they also saw one of their goals was to get new fans on Facebook. As a media organization, it's still important for them. They're not really selling that much their product, but they want to have the highest reach possible. So the reach on Facebook is also still very important for them. But they, in one campaign, they managed to collect almost 10,000 new profiles. So we're here again, maybe some context. We're here in Belgium. We're in the southern part of Belgium, which is the French-speaking part. And there are around 5 million people living in that part of Belgium. So let's say that we can very much compare that with Finland in terms of size. So gathering almost 10,000 new profiles is in that case a very nice result. And also what's interesting here is that the sharing on Facebook was enormous because people also got, let's say, their Disney character that they were most linked to, that they could share on Facebook, which is again a nice way to gather some more reach. And again, as I promised, we would always make a link with the Finnish example. And here in Finland, we had a nice one for Viaplay, where people could find out which series would be best for them, and again with a very shareable format because it's really linked to what you gave in the answers before. Again, we're making a big jump from media to pharmacy, and we're going to promopharma.com, a Spanish company selling medicines and cosmetics products online, and their goal basically is to, of course, to catch the attention of the people in an original and a playful way, to educate people about the products and also to make them come back in a more frequent way on their website, as it's a very competitive market. They need to be top of mind. So if people want to buy a pharma product, they want people to go straight to Promo Pharma, of course, to buy it there. And basically what they saw by having this strategy of creating these campaigns, either to win products or to educate people on the products, is that they increased their account creation with 30% and had a much lower cost per lead than usual, which is also, of course, again, a nice KPI is the money that you're paying for the result that you're getting. So that's always important, of course. In this case, it was linked to Black Friday, where every day there was an instant win. So very much like you have the for Christmas in Finland, the joulukalenteri, if I pronounce it right again, the advent calendars where people can come back every day to open a new door. They did a similar concept for Black Friday, where every day there were daily prizes and people could come back on a daily basis to Promo Pharma and win, in this case, prizes from Eucerin, but every day also a new partner was put in the forefront. So what was the result for Promo Pharma? As I said, they wanted people to come back on a daily basis. They wanted to give, of course, valuable rewards and also make people know maybe some of the product categories they were not yet familiar with that they were available on Promo Pharma. They wanted everything to be very shareable, and their goal is also that not only they increase their reach by paying advertising, but also gaining trust by having their content shared by other people, and to promote this then indeed on social media. The second, or not the second one, the third one, again, we're jumping back from pharma to media, is Bonnier. So they are very much focused on subscriptions in this case, and we're really talking about the paper magazines. I'll show a couple of examples later on. And they want people to buy a yearly subscription or a quarterly subscriptions to get the magazines at home. And for that, they are generating leads that are used by the telemarketing team to contact people to find out if they would be interested into buying a subscription for that. So here you see it again, and it's the name I also tried to pronounce earlier on. Is one of the examples of magazines operated by Bonnier in Finland, but also in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and also the Netherlands. So the goal of what they are doing is across these different channels, so across the different magazines across the different countries, they are again organizing contests, quizzes where people can win prizes or test out their knowledge, because it's always very much linked to niche magazines. It will always be very niche, for example, linked to do-it-yourself, to science, to history. So people are also that are interested in these kind of subjects are always interested in finding out new stuff, learning new stuff, but then also proving that they are the expert maybe in the history of Rome or in the planets in our solar system. So these are very different ways in which you engage and then gather leads for the telemarketing team and in the end increase sales. So at this point, 45% of all their leads coming in right now for the telemarketing team are coming in via interactive marketing campaigns that they built through Qualifio. And that's basically, as I said, the idea. In all these campaigns, they propose an opt-in to consent to be recontacted. This sales team can then contact them via phone or via mail, and they see that there the conversion rate lies between 5 and 10%. So they are really, in this case, measuring very well how they can get real business and real money out of their marketing activities. So it becomes, let's say, much less fluffy. And this is in 9 months, but actually now the collaboration has extended already far beyond 2 years, and also included more and more magazines. But to give again some context, in 9 months they collected 70,000 leads, which resulted in 5,000 people taking a new subscription. So that's let's say a very nice way to also see what the results are of their interactive marketing campaign. To show some examples of that as promised, so here for example, a contest on Digikuva, where again, and I'm again making this link between participations and page views, because we see that there were more than 10 questions, more than 5,000 participations also, but more than 10 questions, and people still went through until the end, To what is that linked? Of course, people are already on DigiCuva, so we know that they are interested in photography, and then they have the chance to win a nice Nikon camera of the value of more than 1,000 euros. So of course, in this case, I'm going again back to the formula of engagement of reward over effort, is that here the reward was very nice if you link it to the effort they actually have to take, and they will in this case then take maybe this extra effort. Again, another one, very simple contest with a former they can subscribe, same principle, and we see that the conversion rate between both stays very similar. So yeah, that's actually also quite nice to see. And then again here, it's much less linked to the winning prizes, but more again the fun aspect. So in this campaign that they promoted both on Tieteen Kuvalehti and Historia, people were actually challenged to test their knowledge in different study subjects, be it history, nature, geography, and we see that over these 6 campaigns, they almost gathered more than 50,000 participations, which is again a nice example of showing that you don't need a big prize to make a lot of people engage if the content is interesting, if the content is fun, and if it's relevant to the people that are on there. And then, yeah, again, a last example on more the contests. And then the last one in the section of leads is from Paris Saint-Germain. And what's interesting here is that we've talked a lot about forms, but actually we don't always need these forms. So what you see in the GIF on the right side of the screen is that for Paris Saint-Germain, we made a connection also with their accounts. So they have a kind of Paris Saint-Germain account where you can log in and see extra content, be it videos of nice goals, or be it having access to the contests also. So they are only available to people who have an account. So these, let's say, interactive campaigns are for them a way to gather more and more new subscribers or new people creating an account that they then can retarget later on. Whether it's for ticket sales, for e-commerce sales, or to offer exposure to sponsors. So in this case, we're again actually with we're back in the month of December with the Yalu calendari or the Advent calendars. And we see in this case that what they did is people could come back every day and win a new product from the fan shop. So it could be maybe a shirt the one day, or it could be a scarf the other day, or it could be a product of one of their sponsors. So it could be, for example, if one of the sponsors is EA Games, it could be a video game of FIFA or a PlayStation. And every day the people came back on their website, which resulted in the creation of 3,000 new profiles per day. And again, what's interesting to see is that of all these people that participate to these campaigns, 50% of those people are saying, yes, you can contact me again with more information about your offers, which is, if you look at the, let's say, the conversion rates of a pop-up that pops in the middle of your screen with no relevant context, I think there we're comparing it with an opt-in rate or a conversion rate of maybe 2 or 3%. Yeah, to put it to compare it a bit with what the alternatives could be. So again, 3,000 profiles per day linked to the single sign-on, so to the account. And then basically also what's interesting is that it's also important to link it with the physical and digital worlds. Not all fans are maybe online, so they also added this, for example, in the tablets that were in the fan shops or in the different stores of their partners. And then the last step, so now we know that people saw our message, the people engaged with our message, so they acted on it. Maybe if we're lucky, there are some people that say, okay, you can contact me again after this. I subscribe to your newsletter, or I am interested to receive samples from you. Now, the goal here is that we don't go for the one-time sale, but the goal is that we really nurture those people with relevant content. And a classical one is then the newsletter. And what's a classical metric, for example, for a newsletter to evaluate how it's going is, of course, how many new people are subscribing, but also how many people are unsubscribing. And why are people unsubscribing from your content? And it's basically because it's not relevant or they are not interested in it. So the goal is, how can we make this message more relevant for the people? And it can be to personalize your newsletter, but it can also be to make sure that the website shows the products that they might be more interested in, or that when you are retargeting them on Facebook or on Google Ads, that you are showing them the products that are interesting to them, and not only maybe if they already added a pair of shoes to your basket on your e-commerce store, but basically based on what they are engaging with you and your brand. And then a nice example of that, or a nice way to look at that is if your segmentation strategy is working, is of course to see, okay, how many profiles do I have in each segment? Of course, each segment needs to be specific enough and large enough. And then, of course, how many people are then staying subscribed, or how many people are acting on the message. And then it's interesting again to look at more the engagement rates. So how much is my conversion increasing by personalizing that message? Again, a couple of stories. We're going again from Spain to Belgium to France. So we start off in Spain. Vocento is actually a Spanish news website, and their goal is actually to offer really the right content to the right people and also at the right time. So the goal for them is to identify the people that are on their website, going from anonymous to identified to personalized. So who is this person? What is maybe his demographic information? How old is he? Is he a man or a woman? What is he interested in? And through the interactive content, so through the very simple polls that journalists are making, that social media managers are making, they are increasing 50% of their registered users, which is quite huge, let's say. And this is, of course, actually, I should have used a Belgian one, because today they announced who our ministers are going to be. But here, a classical one on news website, who will be the next ministers in the government. So they are using, as I said, let's say, these quizzes, these forums, these polls, these votes to generate declarative data. And maybe to repeat what the difference is. So declarative data is really what people are saying, what they are filling in forms, what they are answering on votes. And the non-declarative data, so that's really more the surfing behavior to find out their preferences. So maybe if somebody is taking part into a sports campaign, they might never tell Vocento that they are interested in sports, but we can deduce that from the behavior that they are actually participating in a vote, maybe to say who is better, Ronaldo or Messi. And in this case, they are sending them this to a DMP, but for on a brand side, it would be maybe more relevant to use a CDP or a marketing automation tool for that. But in Finland, again, and then in this case, sorry for that, but I didn't add the example. But this is also the exact case at Alma Media. So Iltalehti, Kaupalehti, Talouselämä are using also in Finland. They are using these different quizzes and polls to be able to segment the people that are on their website in a way to, on the one hand, personalize the content so it becomes much more relevant for the average Finn. And on the other hand, to be able for advertisers to offer more clear segments. So an advertiser can come to Iltaleti, say, I want to have an advertisement on your website, but I only maybe want to target females between 20 and 25 years old that are interested in fashion. So again, back, sorry for the intermezzo, back to Spain. So we're going from, in this case, an anonymous user surfing on their website. So the next step is that they will often have, let's say, for every simple poll voting for a sports game or a political statement or who is going to be a president or a quiz, they will ask people their gender and their age. The next step would be to know their email and to have that opt-in or that permission to be able to send communication to that person. A last step is for people to have an account. Once they have an account on the website, it's much easier to track their behavior across all the channels and across different devices, because maybe at one point you're surfing with yourself, with your smartphone, the other time with your tablet, and the other time maybe with your laptop. So it's very important for them to see, okay, who is surfing at what time, and maybe some devices are shared. That's the typical one. If your girlfriend, in my case, if your girlfriend is using your shared tablet to surf for I don't know, new dresses, the next time I'm using that tablet, I'm also getting the dresses. So it's important also to have that account, to have basically one global view across all different channels of the segment. And then, of course, the end goal, everybody is in it for the money, is, of course, to make sure that they pay for the services that they're getting and that they keep doing that. And we're nearing the end, but at this point, we're again back in Belgium. We were very similar to the case we saw before in Finland with Suomalainen and Kirjakaupa. We're again with a swiper customized Tinder, but this time it's not about finding the right book, but it's about finding a dream kitchen. And it's also an easy format for people to use. And also what's interesting recently that they're more using it on the trade fairs. So as we know, all the physical fairs with Corona are becoming more and more difficult. So what's very easy for them now to let people share their preferences or find out more about what they have is that they let people go via QR codes or via just normal links to these swiper campaigns, and people can also participate on their own phone, even if they are in a physical kitchen store. And there, of course, and again, the story about the size of the reach is a complete different story, as we are talking about a much more expensive product. But in this case, yeah, they saw that from the 700 contacts that they collected with this campaign, the opening rate in the retargeting was quite high. So it's again, here we see that people that opted in to this newsletter wanted to get more information afterwards. And that also the click-through rate from people once they opened that campaign was then another 10%, which is, to be honest, for a newsletter is quite high. Again, moving to Finland. So we stay in the theme of kitchens, but here are in a memory game. And the goal here is, of course, to find out more about the different materials and colors and trends, and with, of course, a nice incentive to win a nice prize. So if we compare it, again, context, here we are in Belgium, and let's say this is a campaign that was launched all over Belgium. So let's imagine that it's targeted to around 10 million people. If we come back to Finland, a country of around 5.5 million people, we see here that we have a much higher participation rate, actually in a campaign that requires a much higher effort. Again, the formula of engagement, effort, and reward. But in this case, the reward was much higher. So people were spending more time clicking different buttons, trying to find out the memory game, because the reward was also nicer, and people who are actively looking for a kitchen know that it can be expensive and are always welcoming any discount they can use. And what's interesting here also, when you're playing with discounts and coupons, is that we also see that the redemption rates of coupons goes up much more if you first ask people to do something. So we see that it's quite a big challenge for especially FMCG companies giving away coupons, is also having people coming in the store and buying products. And we see that when people first are asked to complete the challenge or just leave their details, by having people do something first, that they will be much more likely to come in store and make that purchase with that coupon. The last one is Nestle. Some people might have already heard this case as I presented already in Finland before. But Nestle is a Swiss FMCG brand consisting of more than 20 brands across all of Europe, and they are using our platform. And I'll end on maybe a bit more information on what our platform does. But they use our platform to create this series of campaigns, collect these profiles and again these segments, push them to their CRM, and then use those for the retargeting on Facebook, for example, to gather with lookalike audiences, to gather new potential customers, to send out newsletters, samplings, etc. So a nice example of this one is the Purina case. Purina is a pet care brand, so it's a brand for pet food, so dog food and cat food. What we saw is to encourage the participations, they basically asked people to upload a photo of their own pet with one of the dental sticks in that case, or the pet food boxes. And basically, people were able then to either win a year of free pet food, so again, a nice reward, but also everybody who participated could get a sample. And in their case, they are using throughout the year all these kind of fun formats, quizzes and contests to collect these custom forms. For example, to figure out, okay, what is the name of maybe the dog or the cat, or if they already know that somebody has a dog and they know maybe that the dog's name is Marley, they will also maybe try to find out, okay, do you also have a cat? So what they are doing is step by step, and they are not doing this by huge forms, but they are doing this by doing throughout the year a series of different campaigns. Is they are trying, first of all, as we said again, get the reach. They want people to engage with the brand, and they are trying on different formats to see what works, because it's maybe if we're talking about a swiper or a memory game, it's maybe not something everyone will do, but maybe the people that don't want to do that will maybe more react on just a simple coupon form. So for example, it's something we see that the older audiences are very much let's say sensitive to coupons. So they use these different formats to collect all this information and to build a profile. At the end, also to then personalize this message. And then a nice example here is that they see, for example, if they use the name of the dog in the subject of the email, is that it increases the opening rate with a nice 10%. A second aspect of this is that they are also linking everything of this, the physical between the physical and the digital worlds. So of course, that to get your dog food, you need to get to the store, and you need to get a physical product. So what they do is they print unique codes on the dog food packaging, and they, of course, they promote the contest on the packaging, and then they make sure, if they want to target only their existing customers and to nurture those, is that only people that already have unique code that they bought on the packaging can participate to the campaign. So before they can participate, they need to have this content. So again, the effort in this case will be much higher. So our reach will maybe be higher because it's on every Nestle product, but our conversion might be a bit lower because the effort we need to do, being taking that unique code, going online and filling it in, will be lower. So all things that you need to take into account if you're measuring these different KPIs. And then again, people are participating and they will maybe be asked, okay, what type of dog are you? How old is your dog? And they have different ranges of dog food where you might give a different, let's say, type of food for a large dog than for a puppy. And based on what they know now about this dog owner and their dog, they will also target a message and also in their sampling, in their unique codes, give also personalized samples to make sure again that this redemption rate, being the number of people that take this coupon and go into the store to buy something, that this increases. And that's a nice summary in this campaign. So this was a series of 3 campaigns. What's interesting, they saw an opt-in rate of even 61%, so that's even higher than the average. And in the last couple of campaigns we saw was often around the 50%. So it's again interesting to see that, and it's what our CEO always says, if it's linked to animals and babies, people are much more passionate. So it's also a bit linked to the audience. Sports is also one that has high conversion rates. But throughout this campaign, they distributed 6,000 coupons and they segmented 9,500 different profiles. So these are segmented profiles that they can start nurturing and that they can start driving more sales from. And that's the idea. So they keep doing this throughout the year for the different brands. Again, context, this was Benelux. Right now, they expanded this usage across all of Europe. But even in Belgium, in 1 year, they collected more than 100,000 segmented profiles. So that's actually, they were able to map 1% of the Belgian population in 1 year, which in my opinion is quite impressive. A couple of examples. We're almost running out of time, or I see we went a little bit over time. So I will very quickly show some examples from Finland and then end with Qualifiois, and then feel free indeed to interrupt me or leave questions for the end. But a nice example, for example, for Sinsam here, to go more to the personalized offering, is of course when you're testing out new glasses, is everybody wants different ones. So there's no let's say beautiful and ugly glasses in general. It really depends on tastes. So they want to propose basically the right glasses and inform people about the pricing, about the materials that are being used, and of course about where they can buy them, being the Sinsam stores or online. So based on a couple of questions they're asked to answer. First, they get a couple of, let's say, glasses that could be interesting for them. The same with Vattenfall, where they are testing out in a kind of test, okay, how energy aware are you? They are asking, okay, do you know how to read maybe the smart meter in your house, or do you know what the ideal temperature of a fridge is to make sure that you don't spend too much energy, to be able to know, okay, how price sensitive is this person if they are going to retarget these people afterwards. And again, as I promised, the skin test that we had earlier in French, there's also already a Finnish version from it for La Roche. But again, skin, if you have a greasy skin, you really definitely don't want to be using the creams for a dry skin. So of course you want to propose the right products, and that's again exactly here what they are doing to guide people also around the knowledge of the product. And again, I try to jump a bit between different sectors because I often get the questions, okay, but how would you do this in banking, or how would you do this in B2B? So again, here we're more on the insurance aspect, where people are asked a couple of questions about how prepared they are, and again, if it's an insurance is maybe a less sexy product. So in this case, it's important to offer a nice reward. And then with this survey, they also saw some nice participation rates, some simple contests. Another nice one was, for example, let's say the pattern quiz of Marimekko, where people needed to figure out after, I don't know how many years it already exists, but if we look at the picture, a lot of years, but people were asked to yeah, figure out which pattern they saw. All right. In terms of examples, that was it. Now, how is Qualifio linked to all of this? We offer an interactive marketing platform. So meaning a platform that you can use to very easily create interactive campaigns, which can be, as you saw, contests, polls, but also more games to engage with your audience. It's all very easy to do because it was actually made for journalists. So a very simple poll can be made in 5 minutes. It's never using any coding or any HTML or CSS, but all in a drag and drop module. And it can always be linked to this data collection. So it can be, again, measuring how many you reach, how many people are engaging on the different channels also, where your traffic is coming from. But then also, of course, collecting those leads, collecting those permissions and feeding that to a marketing automation platform or a CRM or a newsletter tool like a MailChimp to be able to send them something. And then, of course, also we go that step further is also collecting this information maybe about the segments as we saw before. So again, context and some numbers are always nice to share. But across all our customers over the last year, across all the competitions and campaigns, there were almost 14 million profiles collected. So I think that's actually a quite nice result over, I think it's 300 customers. So the average there is it's quite high. So the principle, how does it work? There are a couple of templates. So you pick one of the templates, and there are more than 50 of them. And it can be, as we saw, a video contest, a jackpot, just a simple quiz. By default, it takes the design and branding of the website. So that's something that you'll probably notice, for example, if you're surfing on Iltality and you see a poll or a quiz on Iltality, is that by default it already has the red colors and the red and the fonts of Iltality. So it looks like it was born on the website. But as you saw, you can completely customize the design to make sure that it's maybe linked to a specific campaign. You can publish it across different channels. So it can be on the website, inside an article, or on the homepage in a widget. But it can also be on Facebook, Instagram, or on dedicated landing pages. There is an internal dashboarding inside Qualifio. So very easy, you can see, okay, in real time, how many people are engaging with my content. But at the same time, we don't want to create another new silo, another new system where all the data lives. Our goal is to push this data to the tools where it can be relevant, whether it is a CRM, a newsletter, a DMP, a CDP, or whatever, or if you want to give away coupons, that you can also do this connected with your other tools. So that's the idea. I try to share a lot of content, but of course I'm not always sure, as there's a lot of you, if it's relevant for you guys. So in the presentation, there are also some links to more success stories, more examples, and a couple of case studies. So definitely go on the website. Again, as I said, I try to show as many sectors, different sectors as I could, but actually, basically any B2C facing sector is using Qualifio, whether it's e-commerce companies, banks, insurance, energy companies, FMCG. So definitely go and take a a look on our website and on our blog, you will find a lot of inspirational material there. And there also it's much more easy for you guys also to find what's relevant for you, and not just me sharing it based on a couple of assumptions, of course. All right, that was it. I want to thank you all for following this, and as we said from the start, I'm very open to answer any of your questions, and as you guys would say, Kitos.
Thank you, Gilles. And everyone, please send your questions. We have some questions already, and although we are running a bit late, we always have time for questions. So let's start with an interesting one. I'm not sure if you want to answer this one. So what are the major no-nos? What kind of campaigns have failed and why?
Good question. There are a couple of things. One thing is, of course, the content, the type of content needs, or let's say the message needs to be right. And a very good example of that is all the content around COVID and Corona, where we saw it was not, especially in the very beginning, it was not a good time to focus too much on the commercial, and then some brands, let's say in Dutch, they say burn their fingers in trying to be yeah, a bit maybe too commercial on that. So it's also a large part the content. The second part is, of course, that's very important, is the activation of the campaigns. So you can you can create the nicest contest or the best looking quiz in the world, but it also depends on the traffic that you drive to that campaign. So some companies naturally have a lot of traffic on their website, like we saw with media, like we saw with sports clubs, but others maybe don't have naturally that traffic. And then it's important also to take into account that you need to take or use some budget on promotion, whether it's social media, to get it started. So there will always be let's say the network effect of people sharing it on social and of the message spreading. But in the beginning, then you need to make sure that you make sure that let's say the initial push is given by yourself. And then maybe a third and last one, and then we're talking more about the segmentation part. There I would make sure, and again, I don't have, let's say, a concrete example of a big failure in mind there, but what's important is that you make sure that you don't get if you're collecting data, that you're not getting the kind of Cambridge Analytica type of scandals, where you need to be also transparent to people what data you are collecting, why you are collecting it, and if you have a good reason, as we said, if it's to give personalized promotion or to give content that is more relevant, you have a very good reason to personalize the message and to collect that data. But the other way around, it also can't get too creepy, let's say. I don't know if that's and if you want some more examples on questions or on answers that I maybe can't answer now, I'm always happy to write down or you can leave your details and emails, and I can always find also some examples or answers that I can't give now maybe.
Thank you. Another question. You mentioned that people share these interactive quizzes a lot. What is typically the ratio of paid advertising versus organic coverage with these types of campaigns? What would you say? You probably cannot say a typical one because they are so different, but
yeah, it's indeed a difficult one. And also the thing is that we are offering a platform to our customers. So often it's the customer's in-house team or the agency that is doing the promotion. So we are not we are giving a tool, but we are not doing the promotion ourselves. if we're talking about a brand that has really no organic traffic on their website, we tend to advise to have a budget of 1,000 or 1,500 euros minimum to do at least some promotion. And then in terms of channels of promotion, we would mainly still advise the social media, less on search, because it's really it's not about searching a product, but it's really a campaign. So for that, Facebook and an Instagram are still, let's say, the most suitable channels, I'd say. But to put that to compare that with the ratio then really of organic and paid traffic, it's a bit difficult. But it is something that you can track in the platform though. So as we saw at the end, very briefly, there's some dashboarding inside, and it's very easy also to see if people are coming. So if you're launching a campaign, to see in your campaign, okay, how many people came in via the newsletter, clicking on the CTA, how many came in via Facebook, Instagram, how many came organic. So it is something, again, and that's always a difficult part, and that's why we decided to give let's say a webinar on KPIs, is because it depends and it's different for everybody. So it's very important that you choose, and in this case it's a very nice one, but it's important that you choose this KPI and that you measure it at different points in time, because it's very specific for your business. But it's something that you can change over time, play with, and then see what works. So I'm not saying that the 1.5k euros is the golden nugget, but I would say start with that. If you don't have any organic traffic, see what the results are and adapt. And that can be across the year, but this can also be like live in the campaign. So it's very easy also with the platform to adapt your live campaigns. And yeah, just by changing something in the platform, you can also adapt the existing campaign. So if you see, for example, the same, and now we're not talking about the money anymore, but for example, more about the effort. And let's say you have a quiz with 15 questions, and you see that your drop-off rate is jumping up to 70% after question 6, because maybe the quiz is too long, or it was maybe an inappropriate question that nobody wanted to answer, then you can very easily adapt. So I would say, and I would advise, is as you said, it's very linked to the business. Take a try, take a guess. Everybody needs to take the jump and give it a try. And then the most important thing is that you measure, and that you measure over time, so that at specific time intervals, you compare what is my value in this KPI, is the result what I want, yes, no, if no, what do I change?
Perfect. And last but not least, we have a question about price, the price tag. Do you offer trial periods as well? Let's say 3 months, or is it yearly contracts only?
Yeah. Generally, we work with yearly contracts, but again, depending on the use case, we sometimes are open to investigate these trials. But what we then ask often from the other party, or from our customer, let's say, is that they have a kind of project in mind of what they would want to do, or maybe a series of campaigns. Because on our end, that we make sure we do some setup, and we make sure that there are the connections with other tools, that you have all your designs in there. We come by and we give a training, and maybe coming by with the corona is now getting more difficult. Actually, today I would also have preferred to do this via real life breakfast, but unfortunately we need to do all of this online. But there's a couple of things we do, so or that we need to do from our end, an engagement that we have. So that's why we're also asking a kind of minimum engagement and a couple of KPIs also. So we are going to ask to the customer in that case, like, okay, what is important for you? Because now we propose some KPIs, but they can have KPIs that are completely different. So we ask, what is important for you? and how will you measure the success of this? So that we also because we have then customer success manager who next to the platform is his goal is full-time helping our customers, so they are not selling anything, they are really helping, so that they also can guide them and try and make sure that the trial is successful. The licenses and it really depends also again a lot on sector, on number of users in the back office, and a couple of service level things. But we're very open to discuss that. But it starts at around on a yearly basis. It starts at around 10,000 euros per year. And what's interesting maybe to know for members of Marketing Finland is that we offer the account setup and the kickoff training for free. So that's something that's exclusive to members of Marketing Finland coming to us, is that they get a nice discount as opposed to other people that are not members, let's say. So that's also an engagement that we want to make. We think Finland is a nice market. There's a lot of interesting brands that can benefit from it, but we know that we are outsiders. So we want to prove that our product is successful, and if that means taking a trial of 3, 4, 6 months, then we are open to discuss that.
Yes, and as Gilles said, Qualifio is our partner, so you can find more information on our webpage if you are interested. And also you can, just send an email to Gilles directly and ask for more details. I'm sure he will be happy to help with any issues you have.
Absolutely. So
yeah.
Yeah, so the last thing I was going to say, so indeed, if you're interested to know more, again, we showed a lot of examples from different sectors, but we're always happy to have a call. And in that case, what we do is we also, based on the information you give us or what we find on your website and Facebook, will try to create already a kind of demo account and demo campaign, so you get a real life view of how it could look like, and then we can, discuss that more in detail.
Perfect, thank you. That's it with the questions. There were some questions in the beginning, but you actually answered them already in your presentation. So,
All right.
But let's call it a day and go for lunch, everyone. Thank you so much, Gilles. Everyone, give us feedback. There's a survey after you leave the webinar. Please give us feedback and send your greetings to Gilles. Thank you so much and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.